Hi, Paul. Good morning. It's Monday, the 10th of October. Here's today's heads up brief.
Hi,
In
thanks, Uday.
in Japan, Japan will reopen borders to foreign tourists and others from tomorrow. This is 3 years since the pandemic started, so restrictions are opening up. In Indonesia, students will protest in Jakarta on October the 20th, Paul. The protests are against Jokowi on various issues. Now, we were talking about the police's professionalism last week with respect to the Malang football stadium tragedy. Well, in Medan, North Sumatra, three police officers were arrested for being involved in a robbery over the weekend, Paul. So that was something interesting.
Hell of a police force, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. They're consistent, at least.
Yeah.
Um, Now, there's also been flooding in parts of Indonesia, Paul, Jakarta, Bali, Aceh. Across the region, actually, there's flood warnings for parts of Thailand and parts of Malaysia also. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, there's still a chance that parliament could be dissolved this week. That mess is still going on, even though they want to hold elections before the monsoon period. So that's looking less and less likely at this point. In South Asia, anti-government protests continue in Colombo, in Sri Lanka yesterday and today. These will go on for the next year or so. The economic and political crisis has not ended yet. Now, last week we had talked about a terror alert in Pakistan, Paul. Well, the U.S. has issued an advisory in line with the threat. They've basically talked about the increased threat of terrorism to Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and the Fatah tribal areas.
Thank
Lastly,
you.
in the Europe Middle East region, there's speculation over what Putin and the Russian army will do. Now, this comes in retaliation to their Ukraine attack on a bridge connecting Crimea to Russia. This effectively cuts off one of the supply chains Russia has to the Kherson region in Ukraine.
I believe that's the only bridge, is that correct?
Yes, Paul, that is.
Okay. So, look, two other things. As soon as Malaysia Parliament is dissolved, can yourself or Raga give me a call?
Yes.
And also on Indonesia, I believe Indicator Politic poll, which is a very credible poll. Kevin O'Rourke chatted about it last week. Have you had a chance to review the actual results
Yeah,
of their
Paul, I
poll in
did.
relation to the presidency? Yep.
So the main takeaways from this, Paul, is that Ganjar Pranowo, the Central Java governor, he's taken a lead and he's leading over Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto and Jakarta Governor Anies Baswedan. And it's interesting because the Indicator Politics survey polled Ganjar with the State Enterprise Minister Eric Thohir, and they beat all the other potential candidates by quite a margin. It's also interesting that when Ganjar was polled with Puan Maharani, uh, then Puan Maharani is the daughter of Megawati, who heads the Indonesian Democratic Party of Struggle, and Ganjar is also in the party. But the party, there's a lot of internal tension between Ganjar and Maharani. The party wants Maharani as their presidential candidate, but no one in the party or Indonesia thinks Maharani is a viable election candidate. So when Ganjar was polled with her, he ends up losing. That just goes to show Puan's unpopularity and also how Megawati is trying to stay in power and be a part of Indonesia's political elite.
Well, she's ultimately being greedy. She's sacrificing her party. The chance of democracy all about her own power. And in her case, like most things in Indonesia, it's not about the power. It's about the money that can be derived from it. So that's sad, but clearly a future president. Of course, I mean, that's an academic exercise for the sake of the polls, because the reality is the next president isn't going to go anywhere near that combination. So, look, excellent assessment. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.